Once again, you're welcome. Today we are going to start with functions in Python. We've looked at variables, data types, conditional statements, loops. We've extensively talked about lists, which is an important thing in Python. So we're going to be looking at functions, possibly modules if we have the time. For those of us that have missed previous classes, the videos are on the YouTube channel. The link to my codes for each class, my practice codes are in the classroom, the Google Classroom. So if you join the Google Classroom, I upload the codes each day at the end of each class, and the slides are there. My slides are comprehensive, self-explanatory. Show the class and you read the slide, you can understand, and it has practice exercises or practices you can do that would help you. Okay, so that being said, let's proceed. I'm going to share my screen real quick and give us a bit of an overview of what we're doing today before I start the main practice for today. Okay, all right. Okay, so we're looking at in a module. These are module 4, but this is not our lesson 4. We've had up to like maybe 6 classes. These are 6th class, but these are module 4. And in our module 4, it's Python functions and modules. That's what this slide is going to be talking about. And our outline is going to be basically Python functions. We're going to look at arguments and parameters. We look at arbitrary and keyword arguments, and we look at modules, right? So that's what we're going to be looking at. A bit of good news, we are going to be uploading short clips from each class to help us better practice and better understand. So we've had classes for 2 whole weeks, and after today I'll be dropping some practices, some code practices for us so we can practice and we would submit them, because certificates will be issued out in this course. After the training, you'll be issued certificates, so you will be assessed based on your performance and your participation. All right. Okay, so we're going to be looking at functions. We've looked at variables, which are containers that store data. We've looked at data types, which are actual data that can be integers, strings, floats, complex numbers, can be Boolean, true or false. We looked at a lot of them. We looked at conditional statements, the if, the elif, and the else statements. We've looked at the list, how you store items. If you don't want to be declaring too many variables, you can just create one variable and store multiple items using square brackets. We've looked at loops. I talked about loops yesterday, where we have the for loop and the while loop. I said that the for loop is used for a time when you already know the size of your data type or the size of your list, or you want to loop through a list, or you know the beginning and the end of what you're doing. You can use the for loop to loop through it. But the while loop is when you don't know the end for something that is large, or you're not sure how to come about it. You use the while loop. Now, the while loop is used when a condition has to be met. That's when you use the while loop. And today we're going to be looking at functions. So, kind of like a trivial question. Do we know what, like, from our own perspective, who can tell me what a function is? Like, what is a function? If you have any idea, um, just tell us. Anybody? Okay. All right. So I'll briefly explain what a function is. So a function is block of code that you can reuse. So let's say, for example, you are in your house and you wake up in the morning and you always brush your teeth by 7 a.m. Right? So it becomes a repetitive activity, something you do um, on repetition, right? But then you want a situation whereby when you wake up, you just go to your bathroom and pick up your brush and brush your teeth every morning. So now, instead of waking up and then walking out to the bedroom, maybe you decide to use maybe a skateboard, right? Now, a skateboard will move you from your room to your bedroom, where where you brush your teeth. Now, that skateboard performs a function, something that you'd have been doing every day. Now, that skateboard does that job for you. So that's kind of like how function is. In your program, you're writing like 1,000 lines of code, and certainly in these lines of code, you're going to repeat some actions or some program execution would repeat. But you don't want that. You want something whereby you've already written the program somewhere, maybe like your line 2, and you want that same function, that same program to be executed somewhere along the line. So instead of rewriting the same logic, you just have to do is create a function and then call it. So that's how function works. So it's like a block of code that you can reuse, right? That's just the basic understanding of what a function is. Then I'll briefly explain what a module is. So I've shared the link to the slide in the comment section, so you can always access the slide. And the slide has also been uploaded in the classroom, the Google Classroom. So if you join the classroom, you're going to have access to the slide. All right. Okay. So let's proceed. So a module is like let me explain it in a layman's understanding. So you have like blocks of functions that you've written, right? Or objects that you've written, or classes that you've written, right? And you've written them. Okay, somebody said they have not seen the link. Okay, let me share the link to the classroom again. Just a minute. Let me share.
Please, have we closed?
No, we're still on the class. I want to share the link for the classrooms so that we can join. If you join the classroom, the link,
Okay, I've
the
seen my
slide is
link.
there. Yeah, if you join the classroom, the slide is there. Then the link to the slide is also here at the top of the comment section. All right, so thank you. Please let's proceed. We are going to have our class exactly 1 hour, and by 8 o'clock on the dot, we would have closed, and we're going to be very productive today. So as usual, I'm going to practice. I will not read slides for you so that you kind of see what it means to practice. So I've already explained for those of us using VS
Sir, please,
Code,
inside
Sublime.
that classroom Google, is there assignments?
I'll be dropping the assignments today after the class.
Okay.
Just stay tuned. All right, thank you. Please help us to, okay, yeah. Okay, so I'll be using the Sublime Text Editor. For those of us using VS Code, I demonstrated the use of VS Code yesterday. I used VS Code yesterday. For those of us using the idle IDE, Python IDE, I've already demonstrated that. For those of us using PyCharm, I demonstrated that yesterday too. So today I'll be using the Sublime Text. So if you open your Sublime Text, let me share my screen
Sorry, how do
again.
we have the Sublime text? Did you send the link?
Oh, yes. Are you on the group chat, the WhatsApp group chat?
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah, so I already shared the link to downloading the Sublime Text, the website, the web address. Just go to the official website or you go to Google, search for Sublime Text. It will take you to the official website of Sublime Text Editor. When you open the website, the first thing you will see is the download button. Click on the download button, it will download for you. You run the installation, and that's it. It's pretty much an easy process. Right? It's just the way you install other programs. So when I open my Sublime Text, I have this kind of window, right? And then this is my editor. Now, the Sublime Text, you run the programs with your command prompts. So this is our class 6. Now, I want to demonstrate what a function is or how the function works, right? Now, the syntax of a function is this. You first of all define the function. Now, for Python, you can define functions differently in other languages, but for Python, you first of all start with your function definition. So I'm going to zoom out so we can see. So you start with the DEF. Now, the DEF keyword helps Python interpreter to uh, recognize that you're trying to define a function. So you start with the DEF keyword, that is define function, and then you continue with the function name. So in this case, I can choose anything. Let me say it's my first function, right? Now, this is the function name. Now, you're followed with an argument. Your argument can be a parameter can be there or not. But in this case, we're not adding any parameter. So I'm going to follow with a parenthesis, mostly empty parenthesis. After that, you have your colon. Now, this is how the first line in function declaration. Now, remember, by default, your editor adds indentation for you. Now, everything inside the function block becomes your executable code, becomes your logic. So inside this function block, I want to print a statement. I want to display something in my console. So I'll just simply say print my name, right? And then this is it. Good. Now, when I save this, let me point out something. Now, you always call your function. I've talked about calling function, but I'm going to run this without calling my function. I will see the result. So now I've written my code in my editor. I'll go to my command line, command from by typing cmd. When I open it, I would navigate to the folder where I am. So I saved my work in, for those of us that joined us yesterday, I explained and demonstrated all these things. I saved my work in desktop. So I'm going to CD to desktop. If you missed yesterday's class, I've already uploaded the video on our YouTube channel. So I'm going to now type Python. So these are assist class 6. Remember to always put the extension .py. Now remember, see what happens. I don't get any results and I don't get an error. I get an empty output. Now, the reason is because I did not call my function. So the syntax of a function is first of all declare your function, you write your logic, and then you call that function. Now, if I want to call the function, I'll call the function and I'll say my function, then I would put in the parentheses
Please,
that I
I'm
have.
not saying anything.
Please, which this thing are you using? Is this one command prompt or what?
Okay.
Please, I
So
am not saying anything.
if you're not seeing, I think it's maybe network from your end. Uh, is there another person seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
I'm seeing. We are seeing.
Okay,
Seeing the
so
screen.
I think it's network from your end. You can leave the meeting and join again. So for the person asking me which one I'm using, so I explained yesterday that you can use different editors or IDEs. VS Code, Visual Studio Code, has an integrated terminal in it, right? Has command prompt in it. PyCharm has terminal in it, but Sublime Text is an editor that exists on its own. So if you want to run your console programs in Sublime Text, you have to run the program on your command prompt. So the first thing I did was to write my code in my Sublime text. That was the first thing I did. After writing the code, I saved it on my on a folder in my local drive where I want it. So I'm using desktop in this case. So I saved it in my desktop folder. Now, in order to run this code, I have to open my command prompt, which is a different program in your computer. So when I open my command prompt, it looks like this. It looks like this program like this. Then you navigate to the folder where where you saved your Python program, right? And run by typing the command Python spacebar, the name of that file. So in my case, I saved my file as classes. Remember to always put the extension .py. So when I hit enter, the program executes. So that's it. So here is the command prompt. When I'm done, I'll switch back to my Sublime text. But for convenience, I would move back to the VS Code if the Sublime text is a bit of confusing us. But I wanted this because I can easily zoom in. Well, let me switch to the VS Code.
Please, can you help drop the link for the Sublime text? I've looked at it at the group. I can't find it.
Oh, okay, I'll do that. I'll do that now. I'll do that now. I'll do that. For those of us using PyCharm, the same thing applies. Open your PyCharm, create a new project, ensure you know the file location, and ensure you know the file location, and type in the editor. On the bottom of your PyCharm IDE, you're going to see terminal. Open the terminal and run, just like as I did with the command prompt. The same thing applies to VS Code. So I'm going to create a new file here. Let's see, Python file. Okay. I'm going to save this in my. I'm going to save this in my document. In my document as classes.py. So good. All right. So now that I've saved my file, I'm going to go to terminal, open terminal, and click on new terminal. Okay. So in VS Code now, my terminal is in my window. Right. So okay. All right. So I will just go to my terminal here and mount on my. Remember, I said to always ensure that you use command prompt, not PowerShell. So okay, please mute your microphone. And then I'll do Python classes.py. Good. So when I run that, I get my results here, right? So are we together?
Yes, we are together.
No.
All right, thank you very much. So please let's proceed. All right. So this is what a function looks like. Basically, what a function looks like, right? So it's just you declare your function using the keyword B.O.F by defining your function. Then you continue with your function name. You can use any name. You can use your name. You can use whatever it is you want. Followed by parentheses. Now, this parentheses is supposed to contain your parameters, but in this case, we're not using any parameter. Then followed by a colon. After the colon, inside the function block, you have your logic. You can use your if statement, declare variables, use lists inside here. When you're done, you always call that function. If you don't call the function, it will not work. So that's what a function is. Now, this is basically what a function is. So all those things we've been doing, we can implement them in a function. So let's try something a bit more more tasking. So I'm going to use a loop. We've done loops. So I'm going to use a loop in a function. So let's say, for example, I want to print out the multiplication table, for example. So I'm going to start with defining the function. So I'll say the function is multiplication table, right? So I'll say multiplication table, multi table, right? Now, this is my function name. Now, what parameter do I want to pass in this multiplication table? Let's say I want to pass a parameter called n, okay, in this case, right? And then to be followed by a colon. Then I'll hit enter. Now that this is my function. I've written my function name. Now everything inside the function becomes my logic, right? Now this is where the main program works. Now in my multiplication table, I want to show the table of a value that multiplies from 1 to 11, right? From 1 to 11, from 0 to 11, actually. So I would have to loop through that list. So I'm going to use a for loop. Say for, let's use I. I can use J, I can use K. It's arbitrary in range of values. So the range of values are from my first value, which is 1, down to my last value, which is 11. But in this case, to stop at 10, right? And then I'll remember to always close your for loop with a colon. Then the next thing I'll print with a formatted string. The first day I talked about formatted strings, sorry, the second day rather. And then now we are going to call that n, which is our parameter, and multiply it by, let's say we're multiplying it by the I, which is the loop we've created, right? Good. Now, we're now saying that it's now equal to, now this is where the main logic happens, times I, right? Good. So we're going to close this and then close our string, and then we're going to move on now. Now this is what our program is supposed to do. It will just loop through the values from 1 to 11 and multiply every value of n by the value of I, right? So if this is what we have, all right. So now if I run this code, what I'll see is an empty result because I did not call this function. So by the time I call the function, let's say the function is multiplication table.
Hello?
Yes, good evening. Yeah?
I don't have this one below on my own, on my
your VS code.
Yes.
Okay, see what you will do. Is your VS code open?
It's open.
Good. Now, on the menu bar on the top, you're going to see this button that's like 3 dots that looks like an ellipses rather. Click on it. You're going to see something called terminal.
Okay.
Now, the terminal has an arrow button.
Yes.
Can you see it? Yeah. Now, in the terminal, click on new terminal. If you click on new terminal, your terminal should pop up.
Yes, it's out now.
Good. Now, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but why is my code not showing colors? They are all white.
Yeah, because have you saved your file?
No.
Yes, save your file and add the extension. So if you're saving your file as file name, just say file name.py.py. It will recognize that it's a Python file.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to call this function. Now, this function, because we passed a parameter here, we're going to pass an argument. Now that argument is let's say 2, for example. And then when I run this program, I see all the 2 times from 1 to 10. If I change this argument and use 5, I'm going to see all the multiplication table for 5 from 1 to 10. So that's basically what a function do. Now, normally outside this function, this program can run on its own. This program can run on its own without this function. Without this function, this program can run. But now what this function does is, each time I'm writing my program, let's say I'm writing a new program, and I decide to want to call something that has to do with multiplying any value. All I just need to do is to do multiplication table, then put in the argument I want. If it's 9, I put 9, and when I run the code, it does from 5 and 9 for me. So that's basically what a function does. Now, this code I've written is going to help us explain further things I was supposed to explain. Now, in function, there's something called parameters. Please, I'm hoping that your slides are open. I don't want to be reading slides for you. So you're going to be, if it's possible, open your slide and read through with me. If not, you can do that when we're done with the class. What we're doing here, we're just practicing. So you see how these things work hands-on. So
Hello.
the next thing is,
Hello.
any question? Yes.
Yes, please. I lost it up when you were working on the terminal. Please, can you just before you put those figures? I didn't get there again.
Okay. You mean here?
Yes, yes.
That I highlighted.
After typing your code, what do you do to get all these values?
Okay. Good. So you've typed your code, right? Do you know where you saved it?
Yes, I know where I saved it.
Good. So in your terminal, navigate to that folder, right? You navigate using the cd command. CD,
Okay.
then the folder name, right?
CD.
Yes, CD. So let's say, for example, now, if you look at my terminal, I'm on my local disk, C/user/sky, right? That's my local disk. That's my default drive, right? But my file is saved in documents, and I want to mount on documents.
Okay, mine
right?
is in the desktop.
Is what?
In my desktop.
Good, exactly. So if it's in desktop, you do see the space bar, type desktop, and hit enter. You see that desktop shows here for me. Good. But in my case, it's in documents. So I'll do cd space bar documents, and then I have my document. So if I'm on that folder where I saved my Python file, all I have to do is to call that file. Sorry, brother. Call that file by typing Python. Now, the Python helps the interpreter to recognize that it's executing a Python program. Python spacebar, the name of the file you saved. So in my case, I used class 6. So I'm going to say class 6.py. Now, when I hit enter, the program executes. So that's it.
Okay,
So
so
if
I hit enter after choosing desktop, nothing happened.
you did cd desktop
Yes.
and enter,
Yeah.
so can you share your screen for me? Can you do that?
Yes, I can.
Please do that. Share your screen, please. Okay, so while we're waiting for him to share his screen, I'll be explaining some things. So the things you'll be looking at in functions is, okay, good. All right. Yes, you are already on desktop. You are already on desktop. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Good. Now you said your program is saved. That's the file name, right? what's the name of the file?
Yes.
The what.py.
The file name is what you have, day6.py.
Good. So on that terminal, type Python spacebar day6.py and hit enter.
After the desktop.
Yes, yes. Yes, just type Python spacebar
Okay.
day6.py. Yes,
day6.py.
.py.
Okay.
Hit enter. I mean, you're going to get an error because there's an error in your code. It's saying
Okay.
that there's no such file or directory. You've not save your file. Comment the first. Okay. Just stop presenting. There's something wrong with your code. Just stop presenting. Let me show you something.
Okay.
All right. All right. So if you see my okay, so if you see my own code editor, see the way my code looks like, right? Save, comment the first code I have. I don't want it to run. I don't want it to execute. I said you can comment single line or multi-line comments, right? In single line, let's say I want to comment this code single. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to use the hash character. I'm going to say hash here, and then hash here. You can also use this to comment the side you don't want to execute, right? Now, the issue with your code is you did not follow indentation. Now, after defining your function, the function name, and then the parameter, use a colon. By the time you use a colon and hit enter, it automatically gives you an indentation like this, like what I have. So it should be formatted this way. This is how you format your functions. It should be formatted this way, right? And then when you're done, you call your function separately. Now, I want to assume that you have Python installed already, which is what we did in the first day, the first class. If you missed that class, you can go back and watch the video. If your Python is installed, it should work, provided your syntax is correct. And always save your file. Save your file, just save it, Control S. Anything you do, any change you make, always save so that it would effect on it. Please let's continue so that we can do some other things. So I was going to explain the concept of parameters and arguments in function. Is one of the things we should take note of. So in functions, you define your function and then you put in parameters. Parameters can be like they can be used interchangeably with arguments. But the difference is that parameters are used when you're defining your functions. Then arguments are used when you are calling your functions. Now, in this case, here, this n here is my parameter. 5 here and 9, they are my arguments. So that's what parameter and argument is all about. So I define this function, passed in a parameter called n. Now, n is something I don't know. I'm not sure what n is. But now I'm trying to loop. I now created a loop for I, which is an arbitrary value that I have, for I in a range of values from the start value incrementing by 1 to the end value, which is 11. So it starts from 1 and ends at 10. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? 10 values. That's what you have. Then when it will loop through these values and perform an operation that multiplies n, which is the parameter you're going to be passing, which is the argument you're going to be passing later, but in this case is your parameter. It will multiply it by I, which is this arbitrary value that has a range from 1 to it's 11. 11 is the last number, but in this case, it's going to be 1 to 10, right? So this is what you're going to be formatting, and then this is the logic here. N times I. N is the parameter you pass, which is going to be your argument. I is the arbitrary value that runs through the loop. So that's why you have 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4, up to 5 times 10. If I use 9, it's going to be 9 times 1 up to 9 times 10. So that's basically what this code block does. And that's what a function does. So that's it about function. Now, another thing is you can display you can use multiple parameters in a function,
Hello,
right?
sir.
Let's say,
Hello,
yes,
sir. I was thinking you
any
will have
question?
written. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm with you.
I was thinking you will have written 1-11, but you wrote 1 comma then 11.
Yes. It's the syntax if you're running a for loop for a range
Yeah.
of values. Now it's usually 1, right?
Yeah.
Then which now it's the first value, comma, the last value.
Okay.
Then if you add, you can add the first value, the last value, and the increment. So if I add, say, comma 2, so it means that
Yeah.
I'm incrementing by 2.
To making 13.
So no, it's going to be from 1. It will now be add 2 to 1. It will now be 3. Add 2 to 3 to be 5. Add 2 to 5 to be 7. Add 2 to 7 to be 9. Add 2 to 9. Now it's going to stop at 9 because we can't go beyond 11. I don't know if you understand.
I understand.
Good. But so in Python, this is how we write um, range of values for a for loop, the first and then the last. Are we together?
I'm with you.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to do a bit of a demonstration to explain parameters. Like I said, I am hoping and praying that you read the slides because the slides are very explanatory. Whilst if I explain with these examples and program illustrations, if you read the slides, you better understand. I don't want to read slides and just speak English for you. So I'm going to explain something in using multiple parameters and returning multiple arguments, right? So I'm going to run a simple program that adds 2 numbers. So normally, we want to add 2 numbers. We can decide to do, sorry, let me comment this one out so it doesn't execute. 1, 2, 3. Like I said, this multi-line comment, use triple quotation. So I can decide to add 2 numbers by saying first number x is equal to is equal to 3, then second number y is equal to 4, and then I can try to do my results is equal to x plus y, right? And then I can now print my result. Good, I can do this. It's going to work. So when I come to my terminal and then run this program, it gives me 7. Quite all right. That is perfect. It's correct. But imagine I want to run this same program somewhere in like the 55th line of code in my whole entire program. Like I said, whenever we're doing our bits or nitty-gritties of what we're going to apply in a large-scale program. So suppose I want to do the same thing somewhere. I don't want to start writing, declaring x again as a variable and declaring y as a variable. I'm going to write a function that calls parameters and request parameters and calls arguments. So let's say, for example, let me take this one out. I want to do the same thing, but in this case, a function. I'm going to first define my function. Like I said, use the keyword define. Now I'm going to call that function, I want to add 2 numbers. So I'm going to call the function addition. Okay, let me say add. Yeah, or add 2 numbers, add 2. Let me use add 2, right? And then I'm going to enter with my parentheses. Now in my parentheses, I'm supposed to have my parameters. So like I said, I'm adding 2 numbers. I'm adding two numbers. So those two numbers are my parameters, which is x and y. So I'm going to say x and then I'm going to say y. Good. Now remember to always end with a colon. Now the colon helps to specify indentation. So I'm going to hit enter. Now this is my function. My function has been declared. I've defined my function. Now the next thing is for me to execute whatever program I want to execute. Now I'm going to use this code to explain something called the return statement in function declaration or in function, the return statement. Now the return statement is a statement in Python that sends a value back to the place where it was, right? So you define or declare the function. You define the function called add two numbers, x and y. But then you want to return those two numbers such that each time you call them as an argument, x and y, it gives you the same result. It's kind of like bringing in a container of water, taking that water and putting it back in that container. Exactly, that's what return statement does. So I'm going to return x plus y, and my y. Good. Now I've returned it. So it holds that value. So every argument I pass would return that particular value. Now the next thing is for me to do my results. Now I'm going to say let's say my result would now be equal to add two values. Let's say add two values. Then so now this is where I pass my argument. So I can decide to say my arguments are, let's say 3 and 4. Good. 3 and 4. The next thing I'll do is to print my result, right? I'm going to print a result. Good. Now I'm going to run this code and explain something real quick. But now when I run this code, I have 7. Remember I did variable declaration and normal addition operation and I got 7. But in this case, I created a function. Now remember what this is. Now this is important because each time I call this function, now if I've created a function called add2, so anytime I do add2, it adds two numbers. So all I have to do is maybe tomorrow I can just decide to say say new result. Sorry, I don't have to use spacebar. New result will now be equal to add 2. And then I'll call it 5 and 9, right? Sorry, spacebar, 5 and 9. Now, if I do print new result, and then I run my code, I get 14. Now, this is important because we talked about some inbuilt functions in Python, things like print statements, things like input statements. These are functions that people have written, just like as we're writing these functions now. They've defined their logic. They've written these functions, and you're using these functions to perform operations, like the print statements, like the input statements, like the sort statements, and all that, right? But in this case, we're writing our own function. Now, what our function does is that it adds two numbers. That's the simple function we've written. So anybody that wants to use this function can just use add2. The moment they do result equal to add2 and then pass in their argument, any number they pass, it will add those two numbers together and give them their result. So that's what a function looks like. Now, in this particular example, we've looked at the function definition. What is in the function definition is the parameters, two parameters that we've passed. We've returned those two parameters, and then we've performed our logic, and then we printed our result. Now, the importance of returning statement is that you don't need to call the function again. It's not really necessary. You know, normally I said before that by the time you write a function, you always call this thing my function here. But in this case, all I have to do is to just store that function in a variable and print the result out. So that's what's, in a very simple term, how a function looks like. With what I've said, is there any confusion, any issue with what I've just said, so I can proceed? Okay. with the
I have
silence.
issue.
Okay.
My issue is that I finally realized because I, I saved my stuff inside a folder. That was why it wasn't popping up. So when I brought it to the desktop, it popped up. But it's coming up with some error.
Okay. Just read me the error you're seeing there. What is it saying?
It's saying line 7 4 in range
Yeah.
1 to comma 11.
Yeah.
Identification error.
Yeah, you should indent. Let me show you my code again. Let me just here. Did you indent? Is it looking like this?
Yeah, exactly. It's
Like,
looking like your own.
I think, I still think there's a bit of an issue with your indentation. There's a bit of an issue with your indentation. It should look like this. It should look like this, like a tab. So the first line that has your function definition, the next line should have like one tab extra, like that. That's how it's
Exactly.
supposed to be.
That's what I did.
And
Okay.
and
Did you put
you
my function there?
no, it's more stable. That's what I used.
Yeah, that's what
Remember
I
that
used.
the name of the function should be the same name that you're going to be calling later here that I highlighted.
Exactly.
Okay. I will. Okay. Just so we don't slow down, I'll be sharing my code in the classroom. Are you in the Google Classroom?
Yes.
Good. I'll be sharing my code. I always share my code at the end of each class. So I'll share my code there. You check it properly. I don't want to delay the others. I would have said you should share your screen. I don't want to delay the others. And so, all right. So let's continue. Now we've looked at functions. The last thing we want to look at, because data analysis class should be starting real soon, is keyword arguments and arbitrary arguments. So now in keyword arguments and arbitrary arguments, you are looking at a situation whereby you don't know how many parameters you're passing. You're not sure how many parameters you're going to be passing or how many arguments you want to be passing. In this case, we know that we are passing 2 parameters and 2 arguments, right? But there are cases where you don't know. You just want to pass as many arguments as you want or as many parameters as you want. Now, those are keywords arguments or positional arguments or arbitrary arguments, right? Now, we're going to start with the arbitrary argument. Let's say you don't know the number of arguments you want to pass. But in this case, we want a situation whereby we let me show us a sample code from my slide. Okay. Let's now if you look at this slide, let me start with the keyword, the position triangle. Okay, now in this slide, we can see that a function was created, definition of the function, my function, and then asterisk kids. Now, the asterisk here is telling this function that we're not sure how many parameters, how many arguments are going to be passed here, but we want to pass many arguments. So we don't want to be passing that number of parameters here, right? So we want to print a program that tells the person that prints that the youngest child is the second child in the list. Now we don't know how many people are there in the list. If normally would have said keyword argument 1, keyword argument 2, keyword argument 3, but we don't want that. So we just pass in that argument kids. Now the asterisk here is going to tell us that even if you pass too many arguments here, it will not give you an error. I'm going to simply demonstrate it on 2 levels so that you see the one that gives us an error and the one that gives us the correct answer. So I'm going to comment this one out. Good. So let's start. Now let's say I define my function first. Let's say my kids. Now that's my function name, and then it's just an empty parameter. No parameter is passed here. So I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to say let's say print this my second kid is, so let's do this comma, and then let's do this comma rather. All right. Okay. Let's use concatenation is kids. Let's use position 2, right? Now I'm going to come here and say sorry. Okay, good. Now I'm going to say kid. Let's see my list. Let's call it my list, right? Is equal to, hold on. All right, so these are the things in the list. Now these are the names I have here. And then good. So this is what I have. Okay. All right. Let's. Okay. I should not have a list here. All right. So now this is what I have. This is what I'm supposed to have, right? In my position argument. Now, when I run this code, I get an error. Now the error is that my kids as a function here takes 0 positional arguments, but we're given 4. So that's the problem. The problem is that you should always ensure that your parameters are equal to your arguments. Your parameters must be the same as your arguments. And you don't want to imagine your arguments are like 300. It means you're going to have to set 300 parameters. Now, this is where arbitrary argument comes in. So if I come here and then I do asterisk kids, and then I run this, I get my second kid is Jack because it's the second item. Like I said, indentation starts from 0. In our last class when we talked about list, it starts from 0, 1, 2. So I said kids 2. So the third value in my index 2 is Jack. So that's why I get a result called my second kid is Jack. So that's what an arbitrary argument is. It helps you to specify if it's if you don't want the same amount of somebody can't see my screen. It allows you so that you can use any amount of argument you use without having to specify all the parameters there. So that's what arbitrary argument does. So it's already 8 o'clock, and I'm sure some of us will be heading for the data analysis class. So a bit of a recap, we've looked at functions, right? Now functions, they are important because you have, like, you're running a program like you're building a web app, the back end of a web app, or you're trying to build a machine learning model, or you're trying to do some data analysis with Python. And you don't want to be writing the same code over and over again, right? It's important to understand the concept of functions. You create a function, write your logic in that function block, and anytime you want to execute that logic, you call that function in any line of code you want. So that's what it's about. So I don't know if anybody has any challenge or any question. I would share my code in the Google Classroom as usual.
Can I talk?
And
Hello?
yes, oh yeah, good evening. Thank you.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Thank you.
Okay, I actually couldn't start on time because because of the network within my vicinity. But on
Okay.
logging in, I understand that you are now using VS Code instead of idle.
Okay.
And from what I'm seeing, it's like VS Code is better than idle because each time you are given some prompts to make choice from. I don't know, is that a fundamental difference between the two?
Okay, let me explain why is that. So the first, from your first statement, um, I'm using VS Code because some people sent in some requests that they are using VS Code already. So the last class, which I've already talked about, I don't know if you were there, Sha, but the last class I demonstrated the use of VS Code, Sublime Text, PyCharm. So last class I used Sublime Text for some of the programs. So they are all the same thing. Now the reason why I'm having those they call them IntelliSenses because I'm connected to the internet one. Now I have some extensions in my VS Code because of some programs I've been writing, some other languages I've been working with. So it has IntelliSense. It's kind of like the AI part of it. So VS Code now has some AI integrations that helps you complete your code block, provided you install that installation. Then VS Code has inbuilt terminal window for you to execute your code at once. So VS Code is very easy. It's very compact. It makes it very easy for you to run your code, and it has ability for you to install extensions that would help you better complete code blocks. I don't know if you understand, but the reason I'm using it now is from request. Idle still works. Idle is kind of like the basic version of it. If you just want to run console programs and run see your execution in the terminal, but they are all the same thing. Now, Sublime Text is different because you only write your code in Sublime Text. Let me show you something. So this is what a Sublime Text looks like. So if I write this particular function now, all I have to do, I still need to go to my command prompt, open command prompt, and run that program like this. Um, XPY. So it initiates. So that's the difference between the three. So in the last class, I actually demonstrated using the three. I demonstrated with PyCharm too. So it's anyone of your choice, anyone you feel like you are comfortable using. They are all good.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay, if I'm using like what you're doing, what do I do so that Python does not run maybe my initial things I typed and don't concentrate on the last quotes?
Okay, just commenting. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to zoom in. Can you see my screen very well?
Yes.
So I don't want Python to recognize and execute this code, this block. I can do it two ways. I can do it single by single, or I can do it multi-line. So if I'm doing single line comment, I will do hash, hash, and hash. So everything here will not be executed by Python. I can write new codes from the next line. Now, another way to do it is to use the multi-line comment, which is triple quotation. Now, triple quotation works this way. All I have to do is to come to the beginning of this block and type 1, 2, 3, triple single quote rather, and then come here and do 1, 2, 3. Rather. Yeah. So these are the two ways you can make your code, any line of code you don't want to be executed. This is how you do it. Are we okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Is there any other question or contribution? If you have contributions, if you have feedbacks, a way for us to improve, I'm all ears. Okay, like I said, I will be sharing my codes for today's class in the Google Classroom. I've already shared the link in the comment section. So you can click that link and join the classroom. The classroom is open to everybody. The slide for this class is also shared there. I also dropped the link to the slide in the comment section. I'm also doing that now again. So I've done it again. So you can have access to this slide if you want. It's in the classroom too. Then a bit of an announcement. I will be sending in some tasks for us to do, which we will be submitting when we meet on Tuesday. Like I said, certificates will be issued and it will be based on performance. And lastly, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube platform. It's part of what we'll be using to access YouTube. So go to the the channel at B.O.F Network, or go to YouTube and search Bourdillon Omijeh Foundation. You're going to see the channel, subscribe, and like. The videos for the classes are going to be uploaded there. Now we'll be doing short clips explaining individual problems. You can go there and receive those knowledge and insight. So thank you for today's class. Further questions, you can send in your comments in the Google Classroom or ask your questions in the WhatsApp group. I always respond. Thank you and good evening. Okay, so this is the end of our class for today.